Hello, my name is Kevin Kilowan, and today I'm going to talk to you about an article published on February 9th, 2018, titled Caffeine Caused a Widespread Increase of Resting Brain Entropy. Now, in this article, we can expect to see many different things such as MRI results, scans, charts, methods, results, and especially whether or not these researchers have had their experiments conducted properly, and whether or not the results of their hypothesis stated out to be true. Before we can look any further on in this experiment, we have to take a look at some of the background information first. Now, on the 25th of September 2017, 6 researchers named Dao Cheng, Dongqiu Song, Jian Zhang, Yonghui Sheng, Qiu Ge, and Zi Wang conducted an experiment on brain entropy. Entropy is an essential part for brain function because it allows for brain information processing capacity, and when entropy is high, this means that the information processing capacity is high as well. In their article, they explained that brain entropy, or as they stated, BEN, was stable across time, but differs between controls and patients who exhibit brain disorders. Now, in the article, we do have to wonder why the scientific question and the results that they had were posed. Now, after going through and reading this experiment in-depth research, it didn't really seem well put together. There weren't enough diagrams and charts in place to visually understand what was going on in the experiment. And there may have been many more factors other than the ones that they mentioned in the article, as well as in their methods of getting subjects. It wasn't really clear, and it wasn't really uncut, and it wasn't in depth about how the researchers went about getting their subject or their history, which makes it more difficult to keep the results in the experiment the same or consistent among all subjects. It really does go without saying that in any experiment there should be a hypothesis, which is really the starting point and the driving motivation to any future endeavors in an experiment. Now, in this research, the hypothesis is that when the subject takes a 200 milligram caffeine pill, their brain should experience an increase of brain information processing capacity, or as we previously stated, BEN. Then, if the caffeine pill wasn't introduced, then the brain entropy would be normal among the subjects. Moving forward, we can see the experiment method. Now, the methods of this experiment were relatively straightforward. The subjects signed a consent form and were excluded if they had any form of a range of health problems. The subjects, after their screening, then proceeded to the experiment. They then took a 200 milligram caffeine pill and then were sent to get a brain scan. As you can see in the chart to your right, you can see what the brain looks like after their brain scan. Now, this is to see if the effect of the pill showed the same results that they had predicted if they had occurred. After all subjects are scanned, the results were then evaluated by the team and a conclusion was drawn from this. Since we have seen what the experiment method is in this experiment, now we can see the controls and the experimental factors that we have acknowledged. The experiment controls were the caffeine pills. Now, each subject was given the same amount, 200 milligrams of caffeine, and then they were given the correct dosages by the researchers. The independent variable was the intervals of scans that they had, whereas some had their scan taken first and then the pill was given, and others vice versa, where they were given the pill and then the scan was taken. The dependent variable was the subject's brain entropy, or BEN, which was scanned by MRI. This varied because of the independent variable, whether it had been their scan first and then the pill, or the pill and then their scan. Let's discuss the results of this experiment. As you can see in the diagram to your right, we have the caffeine-induced BEN scan by MRI. Now, from the results concluded by the researchers, they observed that the caffeine-induced subjects had significant CBF reduction in the entire brain. Caffeine caused BEN increase along a large section of the cerebral cortex. The researchers stated that the highest increase in lateral prefrontal cortex, visual cortex, and motor network, which is all side effects or increases of what caffeine can do. They also stated that differential spatial patterns were demonstrated between caffeine-induced CBF reduction and BEN increase. So, in a way, their hypothesis was proven correct, but not to the degree that they were hoping, as many other factors, such as CBF, were also reduced in this experiment. Now that we have taken a look at the background information, the reason why the scientific question was posed, the experimental method, the control, the independent, the dependent, and the results from this experiment, we can now take a look at the inductive reasoning. Now, from my observation after reading this article, I can say that the results and conclusion I can draw from this is that the results the researchers were expecting were correct, but did also bring many other results than just the prediction they were looking for. For instance, the CBF reduction, which they did not plan to observe from this experiment. And finally, we can go over the strengths and shortcomings that this article has experienced. The strengths of this article were the very in-depth detail the researchers were trying to achieve, as well as the consistency of their results. But with these strengths also brought about their flaws or shortcomings. And one of them was that the demographic of the subjects. It is incredibly difficult to get results, consistent results especially, across subjects like people, which is why many researchers use other means like mice or other animals, so it is easier to concentrate the experiment and then get an even better result, which is what the researchers failed to see when they decided to propose this hypothesis and plan out this experiment, and many parts were hard to follow along with this experiment as well, like the diagrams and the research that they had went over and gone over.